So Apple has finally done it. They've given us an Apple Watch Ultra. But what's so ultra about it, and does that make it worth it? Let's find out. What's up, internet? I'm Brian McDuff, aka BMac, and welcome to the video. If you like videos about tech reviews, product unboxings, and filmmaking and photography tutorials, don't forget to smash that subscribe button with all notifications turned on so that you never miss another video on this channel. So here we are with the Apple Watch Ultra, probably one of the most exciting Apple releases within the last few years. Apple has decided to push what's possible in the Apple Watch with the Ultra, making this thing one of, if not the most advanced and most capable smartwatch available on the market today. But how exactly do they do that? That's what we're gonna find out. So let's get right into things, talking about the Apple Watch Ultra design and the major design changes and features that the Ultra is offering. The first thing you're gonna notice with the Apple Watch Ultra is the new raised flat front display surrounded by an entirely titanium housing built to withstand even the most extreme conditions. With the flat front display of the Ultra, I've found interacting with the watch itself to be easier with less accidental or wrong presses on the touchscreen. But then there's the second thing you're gonna immediately notice with the Ultra, in it being only offered in one color and one material, natural titanium. Something I was a little concerned about at first, knowing my history of always choosing the Apple product that's closest to matte black, but something about the titanium color has really grown on me. I of course love the matte finish of the natural titanium itself, that's a given, but with the way the titanium catches the light in different ways, in different kind of lighting scenarios, that's something I've really come to appreciate. But not only is the natural titanium color awesome, the material itself is also pretty darn incredible. With real titanium being used in the Apple Watch Ultra body itself, it should probably come as no surprise that this thing is pretty darn diesel. Apple has built up and brought up the Apple Watch Ultra to a military standard, giving it full capabilities in high altitudes, extreme temperatures, rough weather conditions, and of course, while all the while, allowing this thing to be more resistant to bumps, shocks, vibrations, and more. Full disclosure, admittedly, I have smacked or scraped this Apple Watch Ultra against different surfaces from time to time. It happens, but to this day, with some pretty hard hits by the way, there is still not a single mark on the Apple Watch Ultra, which is pretty incredible. In the past, my aluminum Apple Watches almost always had a few scratch marks or dings within just a few weeks of use, but this thing, there's not a single mark on it. It looks exactly like it did on day one, which is nothing short of miraculous. And because of that flat front display we're getting now, I also have the option of adding a tempered glass screen protector, protecting that sapphire crystal display underneath. But I know what you're probably thinking. With all this talk about titanium, this thing probably weighs a ton, right? Well, actually no. The Apple Watch Ultra is only 61 grams, which is only 10 grams heavier than the stainless steel Apple Watch Series 8 45mm, and I can honestly say after a day or two of using the Apple Watch Ultra, I immediately stopped noticing any sign of the Apple Watch actually being on my wrist, let alone it being a slightly heavier one. And another major design change you're gonna see here is the addition of a secondary side button, this time being an action button, which is very easy to see here in an orange accent color, which Apple calls the International Orange color, on the side of the Apple Watch Ultra itself. Now what this action button does is it gives you one-click access to actions such as starting a workout, using your stopwatch, turning on your flashlight, or pretty much almost anything else you could think of through a Siri shortcut. I loved the idea of having a second side button on an Apple Watch, with it being here in the Apple Watch Ultra, but I gotta be honest, I don't use it nearly as much as I thought I would. But you do also have the option of pressing and holding on that action button to actually invoke the new 86 decibel siren in an emergency situation should you need to use it, alerting others in your vicinity. So I'll probably still need more time really putting the action button to use to see how I could use it in my daily workflow, but I see its potential and I'm at least happy to have it on the Ultra. I just have to figure out how to make it work for me. On the other side of the Apple Watch Ultra, we do still have the digital crown and the original side button, but this time protected through a titanium housing bar, which is a part of the titanium body itself. And I'm a huge fan of this. Not only does it protect the digital crown and the side button from any kind of damage, but it also protects against accidental presses or turns. Something that you probably know really did bug me about Apple Watch designs of the past. Other than that, you're gonna notice a few holes around your Apple Watch housing with various cutouts being used for microphones, the siren, the speaker, but also a new depth gauge and water temperature sensor in the Ultra, which we'll be talking more about in just a few minutes. But with all this talk about the front display, let's talk a little bit more about it as it relates to tech specs and what makes it so special. Just like in the past, we still do have an always-on Retina LTPO OLED display, but this time in a 49mm size, which does give it a slightly larger display area than that of the Series 8. Where the display gets better, however, is with the maximum brightness. 2000 nits of maximum brightness in the Ultra, allowing it to get twice as bright as the Series 8. The display is once again a variable refresh rate, allowing it to slow down to 1 Hz for when you're using that always on display, and then back up to 60 Hz for your normal use. But other than that, not much else to say about the display. It gets super bright, it still looks as amazing as ever, especially with the new exclusive Wayfinder watch face that you're getting. I love the Wayfinder watch face for how much information it's packing. It allows for up to 8 different complications, and it allows for a night mode that turns the entire face red for your night vision concerns. But it should come as no surprise that performance is a huge part of the Apple Watch Ultra and what makes it, well, Ultra. The Apple Watch Ultra supports Bluetooth 5.3 for better energy consumption and stronger connections. And you do of course get LTE built in, but you also now do get dual frequency GPS instead of single frequency GPS, which will allow the Ultra to more precisely pinpoint and track your location. That's obviously also very helpful to have in handy when you're out in the wild. Speaking of which, you do also get satellite messaging support and crash detection built into the Ultra, making it an even more helpful and worthy safety companion. All of this is tightened up in the Ultra to allow for an IP6X dust resistance rating alongside 100 meters of water resistance. And you're also getting dual speakers alongside a 3 microphone array with beamforming technology, which means your interactions with Siri and your phone calls should allow you to sound better and hear better. Plus, as we already mentioned, exclusive to the Ultra, you are now getting a new sensor, this time being a depth gauge and water temperature sensor. Very much for the scuba divers and swimmers out there, but it's still a very cool feature to have. Probably overkill for most of us, not something I'd personally use all too often, but again, a new sensor, not something I'm gonna complain about having on the Apple Watch Ultra. The more sensors, the merrier. Inside of the Apple Watch Ultra, you are getting the S8 chip, which is, yes, the same chip that you're getting inside of the Series 8, but don't let that concern you. The S8 is still so incredibly powerful as it is. I haven't personally noticed any kind of lagging, crashing, or stuttering between opening apps or switching apps. It really is incredible how far the Apple Watch chipsets have come, and I don't know if I'm really gonna even be able to notice any kind of tangible difference between the S8 and the S9 chip that we'll probably be getting next year. But to be honest, I think it's safe to say that most of the buyers of the Apple Watch Ultra will probably be making a purchase of it for its design features and additional sensors, if not for the battery power alone. So speaking of battery, boy do we have some battery life info here to go over. What's the battery life on this beast of a smartwatch? This is where I think the Apple Watch Ultra not only excels, but really impresses. The battery life on this thing is an absolute tank. And Apple advertised upwards of 36 hours of battery life on a single charge, and that very much does seem to be the case. To put this into perspective, I have not once, since owning the Apple Watch Ultra, had a dead battery. I can easily push this thing through an entire day, probably 2 days without a problem. Quite honestly, maybe even part of a third day if I really wanted to, especially if I'm utilizing the new low power mode when the battery gets low in the Ultra. But when the time does come to recharge, things are also rather impressive here. With the USB-C magnetic charging cable able to charge the Ultra battery from 0 to 80% in only 1 hour, plus the ability to get 8 hours of sleep tracking on just a quick 8-minute charge. I don't think I can overstate how incredible the battery life is on the Apple Watch Ultra, which, especially when compared to some other available Apple Watch models, I'd probably have to go so far as to say that the Apple Watch Ultra, because of the battery life alone, might make this thing worth the investment. But with all this having been said, I know we said a lot, here are my final thoughts on the Apple Watch Ultra and whether or not this smartwatch is something I think you'll end up loving or regretting. What I think is cool about the Ultra, even though it's very much marketed towards the outdoors and sports enthusiast Apple Watch user, is that you don't have to be one of those kinds of people to appreciate what the Ultra offers. Externally is really where the design comes into play here with the Apple Watch Ultra, and of course part of that allows you to have the longer battery life that you're getting. That in addition to the Ultra sensors, honestly, if you put all that together, the Ultra could be a no-brainer for you. And the Apple Watch Ultra isn't that big of a price difference between the 45mm Series 8 stainless steel. So if you're already looking at getting that configuration, you might want to think about getting the Ultra instead. If, however, all you want is a smaller watch that'll offer you all your basic smartwatch functionality that we've come to love with the Apple Watch, if you don't care so much about the better battery life, the more premium look and feel, and the material, then you probably could save some money and go with another offering. But if you love everything that the Ultra provides, I don't think you're gonna regret it. I think you're gonna end up loving it as much as I do. I don't think I could go back to any other Apple Watch model anytime soon. I'm a full-on Ultra convert right now, and I'm happy. I'm happy to be one. I'm ultra excited to have this thing. See what I did there? As always, if you're interested in learning more about the Apple Watch Ultra or to snag one of these beasts of a smartwatch for yourself, you guys can of course always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/AWUltra, or as always, there will be a clickable link in the video description box below as well, so be sure to check that out. And now that I can track my scuba dives on this thing, I am not a scuba diver by any means, but kind of want to be now. Maybe I'll just go scuba diving tonight, just randomly scuba dive, track the whole thing on my Apple Watch Ultra, because I could do that. Only problem is it's like 20 degrees and it's winter. But I could do that. I'll see you guys in my next video. Does this thing check for hypothermia yet? Not yet, not yet, but give it time. Give it time.